How's it? Welcome back to the channel. So having mentioned dyslexia in the previous post, that was actually on my mind because, well, a couple days ago now, but this was the night before I was shooting the previous video. I had a dream about dyslexia that just gave me a bit of a different look or perspective on it than I ever consciously recall come to me in this exact way before. So like for me, I am super duper dyslexic still to this day, but when I was younger, I had to go to a special school specifically designed around kids with learning disabilities like dyslexia, ADHD, and things like that. And then because I am so dyslexic, I've always worried I'm going to pass that trait on to my kids, right? So I'm always kind of like on the lookout for any warning signs of it. So in this dream, it was not a lucid one. I was with our older son, who was quite a bit younger in the dream than he is in real life. But I'm taking him to my old school. Now, the school didn't look like my school looked like in real life, but nonetheless, I still knew it in the dream to be the same school. So and the plan was to take him there, drop him off for the day. He could see if he likes it and could potentially maybe go there. But as we're there and I'm trying to drop him off, I end up finding out that he's not allowed to go to the school at all. So, bummed out on that. We end up leaving. And we arrived in like this really tiny, like lovely small car. So the car's still there, but now it has this like humongous, oversized match container hooked up to it. Where growing up on the horse ranch, there was a good chunk of years where we lived in a really fancy match container, had like porches and stuff connected to it. So it was something kind of like that hooked up to the back of this tiny car. Oh, and then also we had like a chauffeur driver all of a sudden now too. So like looking back on it now, that would have been a decent opportunity to potentially try and get lucid if I just could have realized things were weird and maybe I'm dreaming, but don't get lucid. So my son and I hop into the math container to go ahead and leave, and I'm, complaining that like the school won't let him go there, and I'm also worrying that if he really needs this school to help him and he can't go there, well, that sucks, right? And so as I'm kind of going through that, I get this insight into what I perceive to be my dyslexia in the dream, but maybe looking back on it now, maybe I was like projecting it onto him. But anyway, after journaling it down the next morning, going over it again, this is basically the takeaways I got from it. So like for me, if I'm trying to read and comprehend what I'm reading, so basically I'm reading for fun, there is no pressure for time or anything, I read super slow, right? Like, because it's basically because I'm trying to decode each word and then I'm trying to pull in the context of everything that I'm reading, that it just really causes me to slow down, right? So if I'm ever pressed for time and have to read quickly, like taking a test and there's a time limit on it, or if I have to read out loud, which will be more like the second example I'll give here. But I end up doing like basically one of these two things where I'll just focus on the context of what I'm reading so much that I stop actually reading the next word that's coming up and I start kind of just guessing what the word's going to be. And then I'll get to the end of a sentence or maybe a couple sentences and I'll realize, wait a second, that doesn't make any sense. So then I got to go back up to the top, reread it again and figure out, oh, I switched this word there. I completely missed this word. I misread this other word. And then by the time, I get to the end, I realize, wait, this makes no sense. And it just, throws the entire meaning of what I'm reading out the window. So that's one. And then the other thing I'll do, especially if I have to read aloud in front of people, and so I still do this to this day all the time, if I don't get like ample opportunity to reread what it is I got to read aloud to the class and get super comfortable with it, I end up basically doing this. So I'll spend so much time like decoding each word, just trying to get the correct sound to come out of my mouth, that I'm not able to pay attention to the context of what I'm actually reading. And so a good example of this is a story I shared a while ago now, maybe like a year or so ago. But we're back in high school, we're going around the class, everybody's got to read a paragraph, and apparently we're reading about animals. Okay, so it gets to me, and my section was on leopards, but leopards is spelled leopard. So every time I get to the word leopard, I say leopard, but again, because I'm so focused on just trying to pronounce each sound in each word, I'm not paying attention to the words that are actually coming out of my mouth, so I don't catch on that, hey, there is no animal called a leopard. I'm reading about cats. It must be something else. Hell, it's probably leopard, right? So I don't get that far down my thought process. I'm just trying to sound out each word, get to the end of the paragraph, and no one in the class said anything yet. And then like my buddy, who's like the class clown, he ends up, once I'm done, like, it's not leopard, it's leopard, you idiot. And then I got known as like leopard in the class for a while after that, which was pretty embarrassing, but nonetheless pretty funny looking back on it now. But anyway. So I think like the insights I got from this dream, really can be potentially helpful and useful to me. And it also highlights how You can pull useful stuff out of dreams, like even if they're a regular dream and not a lucid dream. And like, it's not really clear if my kids are dyslexic yet, it doesn't really appear that they are, but I still think whether they are dyslexic or not, me getting this insight into it will still help me being able to identify things a bit earlier than maybe I would have otherwise. And if my kids are having similar types of issues, I'll be able to, jump in there and really try to help them out before they get too stressed out, which will stress me out. Then it'll make the whole homework session horrendously harder. But anyway, that'll wrap it up. I don't know if you guys can hear it, but got like the monthly sirens going off here. Hopefully it doesn't come over the mic too much. But anyway, that'll wrap it up. Until the next video, keep your dream practice and your parenting legit.